So let's kick things off with the first act on infrastructure and what resilient mobility means, especially for the Global South.
So we'll call Sasank Vigmur again on the stage here to moderate our first panel, and it will be on inclusive and resilient mobility, overcoming infrastructure challenges in the Global South. So please take the stage, Sasank.
Thank you. I mean, you see the panelists on the screen, so maybe I can just welcome you to already come up, Dr. Heike Hahn, Priska, I don't know if please, yes, join. Ramaswamy, you can also come join us, and Professor Flores Bugart. Yes, hi, thank you. Welcome. So that was, I think, a great kind of introductory session. While you take your seats, I'll just start talking. I think they've really set an interesting, oh, can I have this seat? I'm so sorry. They've set a great scene, and we've got a lot of really interesting inputs and a lot of really interesting visuals about oaks and bamboos and ivies. And this session we have about 45 minutes now, and I kind of wanted to go through 3 pieces. So one is to be a bit grounded, so using the examples from Douala and Bangalore to see what are your systems. I mean, I think we're stuck with these languages now about oak, ivy, and bamboo. What are the systems? And then the second round would be a little bit about what are the solutions for maybe these very concrete challenges that they were facing in the cities, and then circle back to this question about inclusion. So this is a session on infrastructure, and we might get kind of stuck a little bit in talking about the robustness of the physical systems, but we want to go back a little bit to making sure we're thinking about the people. So that's a little bit the flow of the next 45 minutes. And with that, maybe I will start with Priska. Priska Mbini, who's the head of Douala Urban Mobility Project in Cameroon, one of our longest partners also for Mobilize Your City, one of the first sumps that has been done, and also one of the first studies on looking at making the BRT system a little bit more climate resilient. So Priska, can you tell us a little bit about maybe this question of what are the shocks and stresses that the BRT system is facing? How did you identify them? And is the system an oak, an ivy, or a bamboo?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak about the resilience of BRT systems in being developed in Douala. The principal risk identified in our cities was urban flooding. In fact, Douala is a coastal town, coastal city with a flat relief and heavy seasonal rainfall. Add to the NCVs, we have many, many plastic waste in a drainage infrastructure. We have occupation of the flooding zone in the city, and we have the rapid urbanization of the city and lack of drainage infrastructure. Then when it's raining, Douala is recurrent flooding. Then in this constant, BRT system can be vulnerable to flooding and could face increase of cost, reduce the population trust in the system, and the BRT will not respond to the demand of transport. Before any technical study, we have done a flood risk assessment study to identify which is the risk on the BRT, to identify the zones where the BRT line could be affected by flooding. Each zone was analyzed in detail, and we have done a prioritization plan to go ahead where and how to implement specific protective measures when we will construct the BRT system. The solution was only urban solution, like the use of draining structure, or we have moved to construct the rain garden along the BRT system, or we can be connected to large retention basin built at the main bus depot in the city. We have also recommended the pedestrian public spaces, which will be designed to include floatable place area, like football place. We can be floatable. Then people can play in this area, but they cannot be there cannot be habitation in this place. We have also recommended the plantation of many trees along the BRT system and in the modal zone. In the modal zone. Also, another thing you have recommended is the community-based plastic waste retention along the BRT system, around the area, and by now we had a sensibilization about this waste collect in all the city. When we will construct the BRT, we think to do in the emergency response and maintenance of the structure of the BRT system. It's what I can say about BRT system and resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Round of applause. No. I mean, I thought that was really interesting, and maybe there's one point that I can pick on a little bit, is the interlinkages between plastic waste, drainage, and the vulnerability of the BRT system. I mean, we can see a little bit about when we're talking about systems, how interconnected the systems are. So the urban drainage, plastic recycling, waste collection are all sort of integrated to making the BRT system work. Thank you very much. We'll come back to talking about that a little bit more, but maybe now we go from BRT in Africa to metro in India. So Ramaswamy, tell us a little bit about how did you identify what the shocks and stresses are to the system? Are they similar, different, and what were some of the solutions?
Good morning, all of you. I'm from Bangalore in India. It is in the state of Karnataka. It is in the middle of the peninsula, so we don't have much of a temperature variation. But yes, we do face a lot of heavy flooding during the monsoon season, especially now we are in an yellow alert. Almost I have got 50 depots, and 25% of my depots are already flooded. So all my WhatsApp groups are flooded with photos of my flooded depots. But every day the city has to run. My city is having basically the bus transport system. Metro transport has started recently. Metro rail connections are happening. So, but still in a population where we have 14 million people, every day I transport 42 lakh people in a day. So we cannot stop. And when there is water on the roads, it has to be immediately drained away. But there will be sudden downpour, heavy rainfall in a short span of time. So all our drainage systems get clogged, as Madam has very nicely mentioned. The timely desilting of the stormwater drains should be ensured before that is pre-monsoon preparedness action should be initiated. So in spite of all those things, the city is fast growing. As we all have seen, urbanization is happening in a very big manner, especially in a populated country like mine in India. And in my state, Bengaluru is one major metropolis. So people across the country move towards this place, and we find it very difficult to transport people. We are known for all good things, and we are also infamous for bad traffic. So we need multimodal connectivity. When it comes to flood, once again, I can plan of moving the infrastructure. What I would like to emphasize is on the annual maintenance of our existing infrastructure rather than creating new ones. So that based on the experience, we should learn from our past, plan for the future, act in the present. So things have happened, fine. We should ensure that this doesn't repeat once again. We cannot afford to do the same mistake once again. So we make the plan. We have to find alternative networks, alternative routes to be identified, so that the buses are still on the roads connecting people from one part of the city to the another part of the city. So these are all my thoughts.
No, thank you very much. So you have faced similar issues with the flooding. And you mentioned also the drainage as being a really critical issue and the depots that are flooding. I was wondering if there was any overlap between particularly vulnerable areas and the flooded depots. Do you see any connection between the physical exposure and social vulnerability?
Very true. Most of the times, as Madam has mentioned about finance, money is that all that matters when it comes to infrastructure development. Not just the first-time infrastructure, but the continuous maintenance that will be requiring. Ours is a country which is developing, and most of the infrastructure budget is spent only on capital expenditure, which is basically a new infrastructure being developed. So we are slowly thinking to focus on annual maintenance as well. As you have said, vulnerable areas are always occupied by the low middle income families. And as you know, as per the settlement theories of Christaller and Losch, mostly whenever there is a very rich settlement, it should be supplemented by a poor settlement as well. Because the labor supply for that settlement moves like this. Or if you think in an industrial perspective, it's very difficult to live in a central business district. We have to stay far away so that we can afford to pay the rent for the houses we stay. So the only one good thing in an urban city like mine is to transport. Though I have to stay in the other part of the city, I have to travel. If it is an affordable transport mechanism, if it saves a lot of my time, so that I avoid spending all my leisure time in the roads, but also spend some time, quality time with my family. So therefore, vulnerability planning is very important, and it is actually concurring to the socio-economic positioning, settlement of our city's population.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Round of applause. And so now we're going to come back to Europe, but maybe go to the Netherlands and talk about maybe some of the solutions that you've explored here and maybe how they could apply also more broadly in the Global South.
Yes, so coming from the Netherlands, flood, of course, is a big, major issue. Especially we make a lot of bad decisions that I also see in the Global South. So we build sometimes infrastructure at 8 meters below sea level, that kind of, because it starts with good decisions, of course, not to, also in Global South, not to remove mangroves or wetlands or very big decisions on large scale urban resilience. But also going to the urban centers. So there are over 100 solutions that you could do to make cities more resilient. So that could be floating urbanization, that could be rain gardens or water squares, or basically let partly flood cities where it's acceptable, where not a priority. But maybe the most stressing things that I saw maybe last year, and I go to places where basically ADB, World Bank, or discussions with KfW takes me. So cross-sect would be the Caribbean, St. Lucia Airport, massive destruction on natural hazards, or Nepal, or Philippines, as being mentioned as well. Kids don't go to school because of heat stress. So there are many distressing things like drought, heat stress, and floodings going on. What I saw is mostly, and my thoughts also with the introduction about the bamboo and the ivy, it's about nature-based solutions. It's about making things with local materials and local capacity. Most helpful was climate cafes, going out to communities and actually see how they live. Mostly close to rivers that are being clogged because of the waste problem, for example. So it's very diverse. What I mostly liked is presenting over 100 solutions and making a selection, because every place is different, and then coming to a short list basically, which are mostly floatlands, introducing nature to cities, so tapping on biodiversity, also heat stress. So these small-scaled, local, nature-based solutions are the most viable for people, I would say. Yeah.
And what do you think is kind of preventing the scaling up of that? It sounds like, you know, there's this list of 100, they're viable, they're implementable. What's preventing them from being implemented at scale?
Yeah, that's a good question. Mostly, you know, there's hundreds of scientific publications, but it's all about knowing these solutions. There's a lot of behavior change and capacity building involved. It's also about having the place to implement them. We're talking about very urban dense areas. It's all gray, so where can we implement green? So it's diverting green mostly, like parks to bioswales or rain gardens. Those are the main thing. And it's about money. It's about having the money to build it, but mostly also to maintain it, because we're very good at going to a region, implement very technical things. I'm a civil engineer, so it's about permal pavement, but they clock within a couple of years, and nobody has the equipment or the capacity or the budget actually to maintain them. And then it's just regular pavement, for example. So money, place, and capacity, I would say.
Okay. I mean, 3 very important things that BMZ works on. Heike and Hen, you mentioned also in your opening remarks the importance of making our finance system also more resilient. And maybe you can talk a bit about sort of this place, finance, and resources, capacities. What does the BMZ do to support making these places more resilient?
Yeah, thank you very much. And exciting examples from different regions, but also from research. I think one thing for BMZ or political partners is key first, is to really focus on cities. And that sounds like a small thing, but in systems like ours that usually deal in government-to-government relations, it's quite a challenge to focus on cities. Right now, rather not supportive political global environment helps a bit to shape also the focus on cities, because we understand that the relations to governments are not always as friendly or stable or whatever, but cities can help. So we were very excited a couple of years ago when in our strategy we had a chapter on cities to really put a focus on. And you didn't ask me about it, Sasank, but I want to mention it because if I don't have, again, this objective or this focus, then I cannot solve the problems of finance or how to cater for resilience or so. So I have to say cities are important. I want to invest in there. I want to engage politically. I want to support networks of cities, so on and so forth. So this is like the first step. And then comes the problem solving. And on finance as a key piece, I think if you have the priority, cities, but also resilience, inclusiveness, and I very much like the nature-based solutions, then you have to look at your existing structures, funds, maybe basically also the sheets, how you ask for project proposals, if they are really in sync with long-term planning, with more time needed, different financing upfront, more participatory planning processes. So also in our discussions that we now started with more focus with multilateral development banks, it's also the question, how can we assure access? How can we assure enough money for cities for project development? Everybody speaks about bankable projects, but you have to identify first that there's a gap for cities, that it needs finance, or that so really having this clear objective and then breaking it down to the gaps and where you have to change your own system or talk to others to make change. And then we tried also to link, and I mentioned it before, what we do in the climate risk or climate impact area. So we have a huge program, and for years already, in resilience and now Global Shield, that is trying to work with partners on how to cover better the risk attached to climate change. And therefore, examples I mentioned before, like climate risk insurance in the transport sector could come in, but also talking about sustainable finance, resilience bonds. We see now that the interest of investors to go green in investment, accept a bit less of revenue sometimes, but invest for, yes, my own gain, but also for the gain of the society. So resilience bonds, where you still get a revenue, but invest in the resilient transport sector of cities, we try to broker also this kind of partnerships.
Thank you. Maybe going back to the cities, a representative from the cities, Ramaswamy, you are now working in Bangalore for the transport, but you've worked in other sectors before. Does that, what Dr. Heike Henn said about making cities be part of the agenda, is that something that you're facing, let's say the level of provincial government, national government priorities that they give to cities, and therefore the investment that's needed to make cities and their transport systems resilient? Is that a priority in India at the moment?
Yes, very, very importantly, basically the central government, the union government at the national level was basically funding the states through finance grants. States used to have their own grants and start to focus on budgeting, but now it has shifted. We have first had a national level e-bus procurement. We started from zero. Now we have 9,000 buses in the country, electric buses. And we have to go for a single common tender to procure all these buses. It's very difficult to work with different states. Forget about states, work with different road transport corporations across the country. And we have been successful in getting that done. So therefore, it is very successful. There is a paradigm shift from where we were and where we are currently. And as Madam has said, external aided projects do come to the states these days at a lesser interest rate. The investment rate of return is so high that the green infrastructure in terms of electric buses are happening in a very big way. And I'm very proud to say that we have 1,400 electric buses in my city in a very short span of 3 years from the inception till date. And we are looking forward to induct 3,000 more buses in the coming 2 years' time. So payment security mechanisms are in place. So there is a huge shift towards this, doubtlessly.
Thank you. And I mean, Priska, the solutions from this options, including green infrastructure, it sounds like you're already incorporating a lot of those things into your project. So you talked a little bit about gardens and floodable football pitches. Can I ask about the financing for those things? So what did it take to not just build it into your project, but also to get financing for that?
Thank you. I know that the third point, the 3 points he has told is there money, place, and capacity. And in Douala, I think is the main issues by now. Because capacity, I think we have the capacity, but for the place, it can be difficult because, like what I'm saying is that Douala is in rapid urbanization. Then we don't have more. How can I say? We don't have more place where we can construct. We have to displace some people. And construct in the center. And about money in the project, we have the finance of World Bank to the BIT system, but all the urban solution mentioned in the study is not financed by the World Bank. The Douala City Council have to find the money to make sure that this solution has done. But by now, I want to say it's not the priority. The priority is to do the BIT system. And the urban solution, we have to find money after that. Floating area or football area with or garden in the zone can be done with private sector. And we used to do some conference to sensibilize some private sector to contribute to this infrastructure. By now we don't have we don't have this private, we don't have the contribution by now, but we used to begin by the BIT system, using the training structure, but all the urban solutions are not included in the finance of the World Bank.
Thank you. I mean, this really, in my mind, I'm seeing that triangle where we have efficiency, equity, and sustainability, and we're trying to find where to position the project within all of these range of policy options. And often it feels like those elements that really have the sustainability components and maybe the equity components are the ones that get dropped for the sake of efficiency and particularly cost efficiency, no? And maybe this is the last question to all of you. So how do you encourage a more balanced approach to those three trade-offs? And I think the nice thing about the diagram is that it really brings out that there are trade-offs, that it's very challenging to really have everything that you want. So maybe the last question is, what are some recommendations to find a place closer to that equity corner? Who wants to start? It's not an easy question.
So equity, accessibility, and sustainability, if I wanted to speak equity, women across the cultures, across the countries, need to be supported to come forward, and of late in the last 25 years, things have gone for better, but in a developing place like my country, we have to support a lot when it comes to inclusiveness, and especially if I wanted to speak about gender equity. My government in the state has provided free access to all lady passengers in my 7,000 odd buses. So from the north, south, east, west, center, ladies can hop into any of the buses and hop off at their wish. So this scheme is called Shakti. Shakti means empowering. So empowering the lady folk, absolutely. The half of the population is provided a free transport across the state. And I would say after the introduction of this scheme, we have added 2,634 new schedules. Means people who have been traveling in the private transport or in any other individual transport have shifted to mass transport, public transport. It saves a lot of energy in terms of diesel or petrol consumption, in terms of reducing the traffic congestion in an already narrow city like ours. This scheme has brought in a lot of change. If a male member has got to save some 1,000 rupees in a month, I would spend on something. I would have spent on a toy, I would have spent on a shirt or something. But if a lady saves that money, she saves it for the children. She spends it on either the healthcare of the children or on herself, or she saves it for the welfare of the family in case of an emergency. I would say 100 trickle-down effects because of this providing free access to ladies. The money in the hands of the ladies will be really, the multiplier effect is so high. So when it comes to equity, I would say this intervention had really made a lot of impact. And I would say psychological independence. So I need to ask the permission from my male counterpart, either from I need to take the permission from my father or mother to move around place. Now, with this economic independence for the ladies, they are free to move. Movement gives a lot of travel, gives a lot of learning. It empowers you. You feel that that BMTC, my transport system, is always there for her. And 24 hours, 7 in 3 shifts, in 8 hours, always buses will be there. That is somebody to take care of me. Otherwise, I should ask my brother to take me to a place. He should wait there, or he should come and pick me up back. Somebody should be supporting a lady. No, now it is not that case. I'm completely empowered. I'm absolutely independent. I am having the free will to move around. This transportation, the sense of feeling that I can take care of myself has changed a lot of mindset in my place. So that about gender equity, when we speak about accessibility, I've said, though we have so many number of buses, 65% of all my buses are run on socially obligatory services. I still run buses at 5 rupees, which should be, I don't know, I cannot convert to this value, but it is very, very meager. You cannot afford, you cannot take a cup of tea at this rate. A tea costs 10 rupees. But you can travel in a bus with 5 rupees in the city. And we provide, we only ask 1 rupee from the students. So students are made to pay only 7% of their total ticket. So it promotes accessibility, and I would say sustainability is a question, but I would say all mass transport, public transport should focus on transporting people with comfort. They should not realize that we are being transported. Many a time I would have seen people sleeping in the buses in the evening hours. They are absolutely trusting the public transport like BMTC. So these are all my thoughts on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. In Douala, since we have done our sustainable urban mobility plan, we used to develop this plan. To talk about the equality, I don't think we can talk by now in Douala. We can talk about gender equality because I have my colleague who used to say that before that we have to work in Douala, we have the first thing is to have the accessibility to work everywhere without commerçants, without the motorbikes will come around you, without to work. It's just the possibility to work and to take a comfortable comfortable mode in Douala. Then for us is the first thing is to go from the point A to the point B with a comfortable mode transport in the city, and to work in the pedestrian road with safety, with secure, with comfortable. I think it's all the thing I can tell about Douala. And I think that the Douala Urban Mobility Project, which is global project, we talk about paratransit, transport, we talk about pedestrian, we talk about BIT, can be resolved in part the problem and can be used to complete all these points.
Thank you very much.
Great question. Although, Sasank, I would challenge you about the triangle, because I think we shouldn't look at sustainability and equity as additional nice-to-have things that involve costs and therefore crash with the efficiency part. So it's not, from my perspective, something additional, but it needs to be an integral part, because I mean, there's enough science on the sustainability side of things that our societies, our cities, our countries will not prosper, survive, or maybe only some on Mars when we don't address this. And also on the equity side of things, we also will not be prosperous, peaceful when we don't address this. So this was the one point. The second, related to efficiency, I would like to say, is it's important. It's challenging regarding the scarcity of funds. But for me, it's more, we need to focus on the cost-benefit side of things, of what has the highest leverage and the highest impact. And some things are maybe add-ons, nice to have on the economic side of things, as on equity or sustainability, but we are in tough times, and we have to do even better on deciding on the best measures, value for money, on sustainability, equity at the same time. But I think that is the challenge, and a difficult one, but not letting go of the equity and sustainability focus.
Yeah, what can I add? I was thinking as a researcher, you know, I publish about resilience of infrastructure, so it's mostly about grey infrastructure. By hearing the introduction, of course, the answer is, with all what you choose, is people. And I already mentioned, coming from TU Delft, being a civil engineer, 100 solutions. You can all find them on climatescan.org, 20,000 solutions all over the world. But a lot of people don't know it, and it's about having the capacity building. And maybe two examples, because that's what you asked, concrete examples. I think it's about people and doing something completely different, because we're still stuck. Grey infrastructure should be green, and then basically we paint it green or put some green around it, but it's not the solution. Mangroves, we plant one mangrove and think within a year it's going to be solved, and it's not, of course. It took, what we took away, you know, it took 100 years to develop, so you cannot change it. So the answer is in people, and there are two places that people really made the change, and one is the Philippines. We went there with 300 students to rivers where people live because they have nowhere to go, and it's not a good place to live because it's flood prone, it's dirty, but we told them about the solutions so that they are more aware of the problem and behavior change. And actually the solutions from them came to use the water as a waterway again, which it was used before. Because cities as Cebu or Manila are clogged, you cannot go anywhere to school, for example. So that's one solution as well. And the second and last one was Semarang, Java, most populated island in the world. Semarang, there's basically a city which is sinking. It's because of subsidence, a lot of groundwater pumping, so it goes down, and the sea level comes in, it's rising as well. So they had no place to go. So reallocation is then the solution, and they get new houses, but they don't want to go. They're in a place where their parents lived, and so it's very stressful. They want to stay there. So, and then floating urbanization came in. So we're building floating infrastructure like roads and houses, and people want to stay, even floating walls and floating floors. So at night the water comes in literally in their house. You cannot prevent it with storm surges because that's billions, right? To make a storm surge in Java. So I thought it was very resilient of them to change their ways, being adaptive, and it's not only about the technique, but mostly about people being adaptive enough to stay in their own region, but with the help of some technology. So that will be
great. Wonderful. Thank you. I think we're sort of caught up with our time. We probably don't have time for questions. I'm looking at our moderator. Two questions or 2 minutes? Okay. So maybe if anybody has any questions, feel free to go to the mics in the room. And while you're thinking, maybe I can just sort of respond. Feel free to think. No, I'm just filling up a space. But by saying thank you, I think, two things that I really heard is to kind of even just questioning my question, no? I mean, I really appreciated that, and I felt like Ramaswamy already gave a good evidence of why those are not things that we have to choose between, but choose among and bring together to push this agenda forward. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Raquel Barrios. I am the Executive Director with Youth for Road Safety or Yours. When we talked about infrastructure, vulnerable road users as youth, elderly, people with disabilities face a broken system, right? With broken sidewalks, poor lighting, unexisting crossings. So my question is, how do you think we could do to consider their vision and their lived experience when it comes to policy and changes in infrastructure? How do we make sure that their voices and their visions are captured in this decision-making process in a systemic way? Thank you.
It's a big question, yeah.
You spoke about, if I understand the question properly, that we need to have better user experience in a city place. Pavements are broken, lights are poorly lit, so we need it to be maintained or operated properly. So first, as I've been quite mentioning repeatedly at the cost of repetition, I would say we have got a lot of capital expenditure investment in terms of fresh infrastructure development. Recurring maintenance cost is what is very important. One, we need to collect the information from the ground. So digital solution is the best thing. We can have an app, so people using the particular road can click a photograph of it and just upload it. So it comes into the database that these are the places where it requires some intervention. Second, as always, it needs investment, it needs money. So the user fees given by every households to the local municipality are in terms of urban cess. When you purchase a new vehicle, you will pay a vehicle tax, road tax. All those money has to be properly budgeted and earmarked specifically for maintenance. So maintenance is going to be the very important thing. And once the budget is through, then we have to prioritize the expenditure into high user places to less user places, and we have to ration the available fund to all the socio-economic packets of the society, and of all the things, mindset, the will to implement it properly, to execute the project, execute the repairs properly, to give the feedback once the complaint is raised, once the work is done. The feedback should go to the citizen who has raised a query. I think this cycle, if we are able to manage with lots of people's participation on the ground level, I think that might solve the local issues.
It's great. I think we have a coffee break just after this, so if we have any questions, we can continue. And I feel like, Ramaswamy, thank you, because you teed up our next session, which is on governance, perfectly. So, I mean, responding to this is how do you make decisions around the use of the budgets, and who gets a voice in making those decisions, and how participatory do those processes have to be, are all things that we will get into in our governance session just after the next coffee break. But now maybe I just really would like to thank all of you very much for a very interesting discussion and your inputs and your thoughts, and thank you for joining us and opening again the conference.